Hello, screenwriters, and welcome to Writing for Screens, Screenwriting Step by Step, Episode 22. I am here every weekday when I can be, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time live, in order to walk you through how I create a script from basic idea through to finished script, just showing you one way to do it, but also here to answer questions if you have them. Ask me anything, almost. And if for some reason you have a life and you are not on live when I am, you can still ask me questions. Easy enough to do. You just go to writingforscreens.com. There's a contact me button on just about every page, and you click that and it will open up a form that you can send me a message, ask me a question, tell me what you're working on that you need help with, give me a description of the problem and let me see if I can answer it. And if for some reason you don't want to do that, you can just put it in the comments right down below us here as we speak. You will see comments section. Write a question in the comments. It will get directly to me. So, a lot of stuff going on. We're going to talk about character today. This is a big day for character because I came up with a lot of stuff about the characters. So, let's get to that. Starting with our main characters, Madeline and Norman, because as I go over it and over it and over it, which I advise you to do, my process is you build a basic platform, a basic structure, an outline. An outline is just a list of scenes. An outline is a list of scenes, and what I basically do is I set up that list. Maybe I only have one or two, just a bunch of ideas, but then I go over it and over and over it. And I say, well, what's missing? What do I need? What do I want? What would be cool? And slowly but surely, you ask these questions and you build yourself an outline. And then you can write a script. So, as I went over it and over it, I found in the overview, the sort of big Bible of the story for myself that I have in a separate document, I had a question. What is the obstacle to their love? I've basically defined what their story is, which is he needs to let go of defending his image to the past, defending himself as not having screwed up his life. And so he is constantly trying to correct and lecture everyone else. And he needs to stop doing that, and she is going to help him to stop doing that by, first of all, seeing through him, seeing the real him, and pointing out to him that that's what he's doing. She is going to need to explore, expand, change her life, try some things, and so he is going to help her by supporting that, by letting her take the lead, by respecting and admiring and helping in any way he can, which is new for him because he's kind of egocentric. So I know what the story is, but what I didn't know, and hello to Wolf Powers, welcome, glad you are here, glad for the other two anonymous folks who are watching at the moment, live, that is. What I didn't know was assuming that they like each other, what's in the way? What's stopping him from supporting her? What's stopping her from doing her life? And the answer is, for Norman, it's his ego, his defensiveness. You know, he's just constantly criticizing other people, and I realized the reason he does that is fear. What's really driving Norman is the fear that he will be criticized, so he criticizes first. He pretends that he's above it all because he is afraid. He's terribly, frankly, sensitive. So that's for me a recognizable guy. It's an old school intellectual. I've met this kind of person. I hopefully have not been this kind of person, but you just never know. People who I know will tell me. Madeline, the question is, why why isn't she open to falling in love with Norman, who she really does like? And the answer's got to be, what do we know? Use what you have. That is a really key way to work. When you don't know something, look at what you do know. Use what you have. So what I know we have is Madeline was divorced. We know that she is the ex-wife of George, the murder victim. So therefore, we know that they were divorced a long time ago, and it was really sort of traumatic for her because their life was so wild and crazy that she got sort of scared straight. She became rather conservative. So I already know all about her. So therefore, the question is, if she's trying to break out of this cage of fear, maybe she wants to face it all on her own. Like that's like, I'd love to be in love with you right now, but I need to do stuff on my own. That's a possible story. But I thought, it kind of felt theoretical. It felt like an abstract concept. It didn't feel like something that her character would do. And also, I thought, would she really want to say, no, I really want to face this serial killer on my own, thanks. This is my chance to do things on my own. It just didn't strike me as believable in this context that would be her motive. The other thing I thought about her was that I know that she is not, when I first thought of her character, I thought she was in a loveless marriage, which would be okay that she was going to end up with leaving for Norman. But I've decided if she's already had the marriage to George, I don't want to put another marriage in there. That's a whole other character we have to deal with, a whole other part of her life I have to deal with that we just don't have room for, frankly. This is not War and Peace. So that means if she has divorced from George 20 years ago and not been married since, has she been alone? That was the question that I asked myself. Has she actually been someone without relationships for 20 years? That's actually a character we don't see much in the movies, unless they're like frustrated and repressed and weird. But the idea of someone who's actually built a life where it just wasn't working out for relationships, but they had a full life in some other way. And I thought that would be sort of cool. I don't think that she should, it's not like the 40-year-old virgin, but it is like someone who simply has had a problem in life in a certain area, and so they just stayed away from it. I also like the idea that she's not necessarily been sexual with other people, but that doesn't mean she's been frustrated or celibate, that she's found ways to take care of business for herself, and that's another thing that I didn't think we've seen much in the movies, or TV. So I thought, because if she's had a few lovers over the decades, the problem is I didn't want her to be too much like Norman, who's had a bunch of lovers over his history. I wanted them to be different, and I wanted her to be interesting. I am getting into topics that I'll have to think about, but to me, it felt like the point was to create a character who I know what she has to have done for the plot. She has to have been married 20 years ago. She has to have not been married since then. And so I thought, let's just, when you have something, dive into it. Make that the strength. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid because it's unconventional. It seemed like a cool thing. And one of the things I'm going to be getting into here a lot, I think, is that, you just have to make a choice. There's an unlimited number of things that people can be in a story, but really, writing is making a choice. You make it, you take a gamble, you say, I'm going to do this. Maybe it's going to work, maybe it's going to not, but the only way that you can find out is to try. Writing is making choices. I'm making the choice that Madeline is someone who has not had a relationship for 20 years. And so that was just one step in her character. And then I thought, well, okay, what was she doing for that 20 years? And what is she, who is she? If we're defining her not in relationship terms, who is she? What does she do? And let's remember, whatever she has been doing since she divorced George, she has to be wanting to stop now. She wants to break free and find more meaning in her life. And always when you use what you have. What we know is that at this point in her story, she wants to try something new. She's decided to become a therapist, I think, is what I've decided. So therefore, she has to be doing something that's radically not that. If she was afraid after George of too much turmoil in her life, she would have chosen something really safe, something really boring. And I thought like a really boring office job. And so one of the things I did was I went online. I tried to think of boring office jobs. And I really, forgive me if any of you out there turn out to be doing these jobs and loving them. I don't mean anything bad by it, but I was just like, okay, I was picturing, that thing that you see like at the beginning of the movie, The Apartment, which once again is just amazing. It's just like row after row of desks, of cubicles, of people sitting in offices, crunching numbers or whatever the hell they're doing in there. That's what I wanted. So I tried to think about, I thought the insurance company, and I thought of the word analyst, like that's the job that just requires you to go through a lot of paperwork and look at it. So I looked up, there's websites where you can look up what a job is. And I did that. I looked up, what does an insurance claims analyst do? And there's a whole full job description. You can go on let me see actually if I can find that. Hang on. Okay. This may be tricky. Yeah, it's too early. I'm not going to do this now. I am going to just say that, all right. Yeah, the point is that there are websites out there you can write like, what does a data analyst do? Put it into Google and it will come up with these websites that are trying to get you to apply for these jobs. So they describe in detail what that job is. And they always describe it in just the most vague corporate terms, which is just what I needed. So I decided, I tried insurance claims analyst because insurance just seemed very control freak kind of thing, but it was actually too personal. It would mean that she was actually deciding on whether people were getting paid for their accidents or their hospitalization. And I was just like, can't do that. So I decided just data analyst. I mean, that's really impersonal. And I looked it up and it really is. You're just looking at data and analyzing it for somebody to use in some way. And then I thought, even better. She's been doing this for 20 years. She's smart. She is a data analysis supervisor. She no longer even does the data analysis. She just watches other people do it. I could not imagine a more restricted job to try and describe to her. I think it might be funny. Hadn't thought about this, but now having her have to explain what this job is to Norman will be funny. Okay, so data analysis supervisor is her job. Oh, I already did that. Look at that. Having her have to explain. People will be fun. Cool. Okay, so that's the next thing. And then I was thinking about if Madeline wants to be a therapist, she believes that it's sort of the opposite. The adventure in her life is not going to be, going out gold mining in Africa. It is going to be exploring interpersonal experiences. And the therapist idea, it's very, it's sort of the opposite of the closed off person that she's been. And she is smart, she's sensitive, she's insightful. So I thought, what if Zach, our Zoomer villain, what if Zach's parents are both therapists? I just think they'd have a lot to talk about. So I think that's a little note that I'm going to add. But then I asked myself a question. Should Zach be a woman, be female? And the reason that I'm asking this is that if we've got just men, it's just all men here. It's too many. Once again, writing is choices, and I was sort of looking at the what we've got. You know, you go over it and over it and over it, and one of the things I realized is it's all men. There's Madeline and a bunch of guys, at least so far, and that's not acceptable. It's just not going to be the good story. It's not going to be the fun that I had. And why not have your villain be female? Cool. This is always a tricky thing. You want to give every type of person as much freedom as possible in your story. You want to give them the respect that they could be a villain, but at the same time, you don't want to say, that type of person is a villain. It's kind of a tricky call. Again, you really have to eventually just say, I can live with this. I can live with this choice. So that's what I'm doing. I am making Zach into Xena. I just like the Z, so we're keeping it. And then I thought maybe, so her name is Xena, and she's named, there was a TV series back at the turn of the 21st century called Xena Warrior Princess, spelled with an X. And I thought maybe she was named after that. And I thought, I don't think that her mom would have named her that. It's a little too tacky. But what if she, in her youthful misunderstanding of how tacky it is, has named herself Xena, changed her name because her real name is boring. Her real name is Madison. And so as soon as she could, at whatever age her parents were willing to, and maybe she's done a bunch of names, she said, I'm not Madison anymore. There's too many Madisons out there. I want to be Xena. And they're like, okay, sweetie, sure. The thing that I wanted to tell you about this is when you're looking for names, this is just a little hint you might get, a little trick. Let's see. This is the Social Security website. And if you go into the Social Security website and you search baby names, it will come up with popular baby names. And this is an amazing resource because aside from just having a lot of names here in America, it also has down here popular names by birth year. And that's really interesting because, for instance, I'm having Xena be about 20 years old, so she was born in 2001. And then you can say, I want the top 100 names in popularity. And I'm going for percentage of births, not number. And I push go. And look at this. It gives you male and female names and by who's the most popular. And that's how I got Madison. I went to this Emily. I sort of like the name Emily, so I didn't want to slam it. So instead I went to number 2, which was Madison. I don't love the name Madison, and to all the Madisons out there, I apologize. You could be great, but Madison just felt like in my generation, there were too many Jennifers. There's too many Ashleys, and there's too many Madisons. And I thought that would really annoy our character, Xena, and so she would flee from Madison. But anyway, the important thing is you should know, if you're looking for names in America and you want to say this person is 40-year-old or a 50-year-old or a 20-year-old or a 10-year-old, you can go to the Social Security website, check popular baby names, and find huge lists of names and find out how relatively common they were. I just think that's a super cool thing. I am going to briefly check on a question. George Pulte's book, 36 Dramatic Situations, is useful. I have not read it. I am going to put that one off till another time. I'm going to actually, hang on. I'm going to screenshot that right now so that I keep it. Cool. I've got that question. I will look into it and answer it. But my brief answer is going to be about all books, about all theories. It's worth looking into. Without even looking at it, I can say it's worth looking into. I'm sure there's some real garbage books out there and some real terrible theories, but it's still worth checking them out, even if they rub you the wrong way, because the point about theories is no single one will solve everything. No single formula is the answer. The more that you have, the more you have skills. The more that you say, oh, this guy's 36 dramatic situations, it helps inform this particular thing. As I have said before, think of yourself like a plumber. When you go to your job, you want to have every possible tool, every wrench and valve and pipe that is in existence that anyone ever needed. And that's what your theories are. That's what your books are. And that's what the examples you can find from other movies or TV shows is you watch them and you store them in your toolkit. So in that sense, they are all useful. So that is how far I got on today's character stuff. I have a few minutes left. So one of the things that we need to do is keep working on characters, because I've now got the basic shape of the pilot outline, but I do not know a lot about who these people are, and I can't really come up with scenes or distinctive actions until I have the characters. And this is because character creates the action and action defines the character. It's this weird Mobius strip of writing that's very, very important for you to know. A character is defined by what they do. In other words, if a character is a hero because they sacrifice themselves, the act of sacrificing defines them as a hero. If they don't do that sacrifice, not really the hero, or not really heroic in that sense. But at the same time, the reason that they do these things comes from their character. So while their action defines their character creates that action that defines their character. It's this really wild loop, which is incredibly useful. Because if you can't think of one thing, you go to the other side. If I don't know who this character is, look at what they do. If I know what they do, I can think about why they do it. And that is an endless supply of insight into characters. So, in this case, we have a couple of characters we do not yet know yet. We have the cop, we have George, and we have the other sleuths. So I need to make all those characters come to life because they're going to be in these scenes. They're going to be, George is going to die, but he's going to have a very big presence in Madeline's life. So the first thing we need to do is give them names. Sometimes you just name people just so that you have a thing to cling to, a way to stop them from being just vague and general. These names can and will change, but it's good to start with that. The cop. I was thinking about it. I read that in an interview with Paul Schrader, it was a very fine screenwriter, sometimes a little difficult, but has written some amazing things. And he said that when he wrote American Gigolo, in the first draft, he didn't have enough names for cops, so he named them all after cheeses. So there was like Gouda and Edam and Jarlsberg and like Parmesan or something. I just thought that was really funny. But it also says that it's a cool thing that you can do. Just take random names of people or types of like senators or something and just throw them in there because it's the first step. You're just making a choice. Now, Elms. I am going to call this person Elms. The cop is Detective Elms. Why? It's the name of a cinematographer. I'm in a cinematographer mood right now, and there's some cool cinematographers, and I just decided Fred Elms is a brilliant cinematographer. Why not? And here's the thing about this character. What do we know about them? We know that they have to be not helpful. Hang on, we got a question. Might be too early for this question. We'll find out, won't we? Hang on. I'm going to change the shape of our things here. I await the question that this might be too early. Okay, continue. How do you distance a character's choice or decisions from the "this is what I would have done" influences? This is interesting, and this actually fits in very well with. That's a really interesting question, and it completely fits to what we're doing, which is when you are deciding a character, to a certain extent, you are always putting yourself in their shoes. You're all like, I don't think it's personally possible to create a character without ever thinking, what is it like to be them? What would I do if I were them? The important thing to remember about that is you're not saying, what would I do if I were them? Like if they were me. You're saying, what would I do if I was them? Very, very big difference. What you're saying is, I am for a moment going to imagine not being me, not having my moral compass or my personal needs or thoughts. I'm going to try and imagine what it's like to need to drink blood. Okay, you're writing about vampires. What is it like to need to drink blood? And that's what you have to start with, is not what would I do in this situation, but what would it feel like to be the person who is in this situation? Is that making sense to anybody? Because that's a really important distinction. When I think about what is it like to drink blood, for me, going to be rather unpleasant. But I can also think, what is it like for me to be very, very thirsty, needy of this thing that for me would taste really good? I mean, there's got to be a reason that vampires do this. They must like it. I mean, they must be genetically, biologically, hereditarily engineered to think that that taste is irresistible. So the answer is not, would I do that? No. Would I, if I was them, and what would it be like? And then you start to think about that. So the answer is, you are not really thinking about what would I do. You are thinking, what would it be like to be the person who does this? And what basic emotions do I connect with? I may not connect with actually draining the blood out of people, but I can connect with the idea that if I don't eat, I will die. Now, I'm lucky. I do not find myself in that position, although I often find myself in the position of feeling like if I don't get a burger soon, I'm going to die. But I'm not. But I can try to picture it. And frankly, if I want, I could spend a day or two not eating to see what it feels like to get there. You want to be careful with this. You do not want to spend a day or two shooting heroin or robbing people at gunpoint or all the other things that your characters might do. But whatever you can connect to, it is my belief that we have, all of us, inside us, certain basic, powerful feelings. And I believe they are unlimited. You have an unlimited supply of love. I believe you have an unlimited supply of anger. I imagine it like, like if you were in like a paint store and there were like vats of paint, but they never ran out and they were the pure color. There's pure yellow, pure blue, and they've got like little spigots on them. And so you go and you're like, oh, love is blue. I don't know why. And so you turn and you got some blue, and that blue will just keep coming as long as it's needed. But you can also mix it with some red or something and get a different color. And the thing is, I believe somewhere in most people, those colors exist. And so when you are thinking about other people's colors, you're thinking about yours. And you're trying to somehow or other do this magical thing, this magical empathy, where you think, what is it like? More of the essence of the character, exactly. The essential thing, the quality of lust, the quality of hunger, the quality of rage, those are qualities that you can connect with. Open yourself up to them in you, even if you find them morally repugnant. The ability to dehumanize others, not something we want, but something that if we look inside, we'll say, there are times when I feel other people are just in my way or just something for me to use to get something. And if you can think about that, you will be able to extrapolate into all sorts of different people. All of your people are going to come out a little bit of you, and they're going to come out a little bit like all your other people in subtle ways. That is the voice of the author. It's cool. It's not a problem. Don't over control it. Just, you're only going to write what you write. That's why people are going to like what you write, because you wrote it and they like what you do. It might be like the urge for a cigarette. Yes, exactly. Everybody has their own addictions. There's actually I think a really good song about that. Anyway, probably more than one really good song. Noted to not go too deep on the method writing here. Yeah, I do have to urge, do not go into debt for your art. Do not spend money you don't have for it. And do not do things that are unhealthy to you or other people in the name of art. It is not a good plan. It is not worth it. It is not a good idea to stay up all night on Benzedrine like Jack Kerouac. Yes, he got one good book out of it, but he also got early death out of it. And please do not go into the, one good book is worth an early death. It's not. It's truly not. Just really important that you know that. Use your imagination. That is the name of the game. We are not in the game of actually doing this stuff. We're in the game of making it up. We are in the game of helping other people to make it up so that they don't have to do it. That's the whole point. Great question, Pigeon King. I appreciate it. I hope that was helpful to all of you. The important thing is you really should not create a character that you do not spend a minute or two thinking, what's it like from their point of view? Even a minor one. Which brings us back to, did you like that segue? Our cop. And what we know about our cop so far, the main thing we know about our cop is that he has to not be helpful. And this is just a practical matter. We're in a thriller. If the cop can take care of the investigation and the cop can save the day, our main characters don't have anything to do. So for some reason, this person is going to not be helpful. There's a lot of possible reasons. Brainstorm. I'm putting out a video soon on the concept of brainstorming, which is when you just let loose all the possible ideas that could answer this question of why is this cop not helpful. Don't overthink it. Just put down like hates amateur sleuths, doesn't believe in the case somehow, gets insulted somehow, is very hot on some other lead. Very often somebody is not helpful in one way because they think they are doing good thing in another way. And it could be simply that this cop is just not taking it seriously, or wants the credit for themselves. Possibly it says, whoa, it's a serial killer case, come back. I'm going to solve it. I'm going to keep these people out of it. I'm not sure yet what I think one of the best things to do when you brainstorm is brainstorm, step away, come back later. And then you'll have a more reasoned set, like there's like steam and sparks coming out of your head when you're doing this brainstorming stuff. And you want to sort of cool down and look at it with more rational eyes. All writing is a back and forth, a balance between sheer irrational creativity and editing, rationally shaping, making choices. You're constantly going back and forth between them. Hey, it's been over a half an hour. I probably should stop so that this video does not run too long for those of us who are watching it as a video. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. The delightful questions, the little thumbs ups that I get now and then. This is all great. Thank you so much. We are going to get further into this story tomorrow. In the meantime, I wish you well. Stay safe. Do not do anything your characters would do if it is dangerous.